Another huge category in our Rocket and Raygun Awards for 2016. We've got 10 nominees in the Best Remake or Redux or Collection in 2016. There were a ton of these, guys. We know that, right? It's one of the banes of the video game industry. We're not all happy that we're replaying games again, but it's hard not to get excited about some of these titles. Return to Arkham, BioShock the Collection, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 were brought back. Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition, Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, Ratchet and Clank, Twilight Princess HD, Gravity Rush Remastered, Ezio Collection, and Dead Rising came back and was released on the PlayStation 4 for the first time on a PlayStation system. Dead Rising 1, 2, and Reloaded. Ben Silverman, tons of games in there, tons of classic franchises. Do you have a favorite out of that list?
Tons of games I did not really want to play again because I already played them once. I
know.
You're right when you say this is the bane of our industry. I understand why they're doing it, especially now that we're getting new consoles. We're getting an Xbox One S, and you got the PS4 Pro, and everyone wants to up-res. And this is what the world we live in now. People are going to keep trying to monetize over and over again. There are 3 games that really stand out on this list to me. The first one of those is Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, which I think a lot of people consider that, and I do consider that, to be really the great Call of Duty game. I mean, that was the one that opened the doors to what has become its own bane, which is a new Call of Duty game every year. But what an incredible video game that is. I mean, you just sort of break from all of the Call of Duty madness and just kind of think about how great that first game with Infinity Ward really knocking it out of the park.
And how grounded it feels, too, to play that now in the face of all of these sci-fi shooters, right?
Yeah, you just walk around with a gun and shooting dudes. Yeah. And I remember the first time we saw that, I think we might have been together at a Judge Week or something. I just remember
never forget it.
Just like jaw dropping it, like that, the seal on the boat scene and stuff. Like, it's
incredible.
Just incredible looking, and they did a great job making it look incredible again. I think that's a great choice. I think the other game that I would talk about is Skyrim, because actually that could have been on our RPG list this year.
Totally.
I might have given it best RPG. I mean, it's Skyrim. It's one of my easily in my top 5 RPGs of all time, including all of my beloved PC RPGs from the 90s and 80s. It's a great video game. It's even better now that it looks a little bit better. And all that content, I mean, Jose and I reviewed a lot of that content, the DLC, as it was coming out. So I had already experienced it. So going back into it, it wasn't like, ooh, finally. I had already played 200 hours of that video game. So for me, it was more just like visiting an old friend, and they got a great facelift and a boob job.
Well, here's the thing with Skyrim, though, and it is wonderful, and it's a great upgrade. You know, they spent the time to make it beautiful, but in our minds, when we played it originally, it was more beautiful than the remake is, I feel. Like, when you play it, it's in the context of time.
It's a recent game, right? A lot of these games are older. You're talking about, the first BioShock from 2007 being redone in the Remastered collection. It's easier to really see that visual change, where in Skyrim, you're right, you don't. The game I'm going to go with here as my pick is going to be Ratchet and Clank, because I'm pleased to see it on this list. I didn't know if we'd actually include it as a remake, because it's kind of I guess it is a remake. They redid Ratchet and Clank, but boy, it doesn't feel like Ratchet and Clank.
No.
This is a sumptuous video game. It is an incredible experience if you are stupid enough to have bought a 4K television set and are stupid enough to have also got a PlayStation Pro. This thing looks like a cartoon.
Yeah.
It is incredible that they did not need to do this. They did not need to go this big with how they rejiggered it. But, back in the day, I remember it was always like either Ratchet and Clank or Jak and Daxter. Like, you were going to invest in one of those 2 series. And I always invested, weirdly, in Jak and Daxter. I played those games more than I played Ratchet and Clank.
Well, I remember Sly Cooper was in there, too, and Sony would release one of these in every month, and it's like, you're competing with yourself, guys. Why are you doing that?
Platform heaven, but video game choice hell. And I didn't spend as much time with the original Ratchet and Clank back then as I did with these other platformers. So for me, it wasn't just seeing it done again. It was really seeing it done the best it could ever be done. Yeah. And I think it's the best work on this list for me.
Okay. Jose, what's your choice, brother?
I agree with what Ben was saying about Skyrim and how beautiful it looks now that it's been remastered, but it still feels too fresh of the games that are remade for me. I had a great time playing Twilight Princess HD again because it had been so long since I played Twilight Princess back in the day.
Yep.
Way back in the days, in those old Nintendo consoles before they had controllers that went all over the place and snapped into your screen and all kinds of crazy stuff. But for me, my choice is going to be BioShock, the collection. I remember just having such an incredible time with the first BioShock, the first playthrough I had of it. So to jump back in it again now, remastered, holy crap, the game still holds up. It's still fun to play.
You know what surprised me in that collection was how beautiful BioShock Infinite looks. Even though that's pretty recent, it's a gorgeous game. And the move to, I was playing it on the Xbox One S, and it just looks incredible. I can't believe the lighting effects and the detail on the faces and it's I think it devolves into too much of just a shooter, but god damn, they put a ton of work into the storycraft in all of those games. But BioShock Infinite, I think, surprised me how much it pops off the screen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just having the whole collection too, as well, all beautiful and built and made it look all pretty. Just a phenomenal series and definitely worth the vote. So
nice.
Would you kindly vote for BioShock as well, Steve Tilley?
You kindly did. Steve Tilley, what would you vote for?
Well, Foobs is right. I mean, the BioShock games are so great and so special. I'm always of two minds when it comes to remasters. On the one hand, it can seem like a bit of a cash grab, but on the other hand, it's introducing games that people may have missed. If you weren't around in the PS3, Xbox 360 era, then you didn't play these games. And I like the fact that they're coming back. And I don't necessarily want to buy these games all over again, but for a game like BioShock, I definitely would play through again, and I did. And I think that the collection it's great value because there's also the value prop here too. Like that's one of the other great things about COD 4 is that it was included with the one edition of Infinite Warfare. So it's basically a free game, an amazing free game that you're getting on top of everything else. Ben's exactly right. Ratchet and Clank is the way you do a redux or a remaster. You make it. You don't just throw an extra coat of pixels on it. You make it. You tweak
make it more.
Make it actually better. Yeah. But I just am so attached to Skyrim that the minute I got the special edition in my hands, I'm back in Skyrim. And the fact that it now supports mods on the consoles is a big deal. That's something that's been around with PC games for a long, long time.
That makes it more in that direction, right? That makes it more than it's on the console at least.
Yeah, and it's got those 3 big meaty hunks of DLC as well. So it is a newer game, and I think the difference isn't quite as dramatic in terms of it looks better visually. It does look better visually. It's not quite the dramatic leap that some of these other games are, but for all the time I put into Skyrim, the fact that I am willing to jump back in and start fresh in what I know is going to be an 80, 90, 100-hour journey. Says something about the game, and says something about the fact that it was a great idea for them to re-release it.
Yeah, big time. I was so that's your pick, Skyrim. I thoroughly enjoyed jumping back into that world, but I was really happy to see that Marvel Ultimate Alliance just sort of pop back in, and I got an email to download the game and to play those games. I miss that franchise very much, the idea to put your superhero team and go through this cool RPG together. They did a good job with, bringing some pretty creaky and archaic visuals to current gen systems. I've been playing it on the PS4, but I really dug jumping into that. I really dug jumping into the first Arkham Asylum game on in HD. Yeah,
but you like that? You enjoyed it?
I do. I love that so much. But I love the containment of that first one. That sort of clearer line of what the story is going to be. And of course, they've included all the DLC in both that and in City, and they're both incredible. And Call of Duty blew me away with its fidelity. And they're also offering new DLC and stuff like that too. They're supporting it. It's not just a total throwaway. They're actually supporting it all the way. I already talked about how BioShock Infinite blew me away. Twilight Princess HD was the first game that I really, like the first real game that I finished with my daughter, and she played the whole thing with me. And so now that's got an emotional, value and an emotional kind of connection that I wasn't really expecting, and beyond what I always feel about the Zelda games. I think Nintendo did a great job with that port, but I think Ben is exactly right. I think if you're going to do a remaster, you have to support your work, your original work, as if it's this cherished work of art, and if you're going to bring it to a modern platform, you should imbue it with all the technology that is available to you and all the tweaks and all your learnings, and that's exactly what Insomniac did. So much so that it is not only just a great homage to the classic Ratchet and Clanks, it is now arguably one of the best PlayStation 4 games that you can buy, and it's one of the best games of 2016, period. And it's one of the best reasons to get a PlayStation 4 Pro and a 4K TV, and that's insane. This is, you know.
So you're voting. So you're voting for Dead Rising.
I'm voting for Dead Rising, and actually, Dead Rising, that was funny too. It was great to jump back into that because I'm playing Dead Rising 4 right now, and it was nice to jump in and get that refresher on some of the core game design elements. Not my favorite games, but they did a pretty decent job on the ports on that. But yeah, nothing I think can touch what Insomniac did with Ratchet and Clank this year. All of these games are incredible games. They're all just, you know, amazing titles that people should endeavor to play no matter how they're going to play them. But if in terms of reissuing a game that we're familiar with, God, Ratchet and Clank is phenomenal. They did an amazing job with that.
Jak and Daxter next. Jak and Daxter next.
Jak and Daxter next, yeah. And, you know, hopefully that Crash Bandicoot series that they're doing for us next year has that same level of reach. But for now, Ratchet and Clank gets the Rocket and Raygun Award for Best Remastered Game of 2016. Congrats, Insomniac. Don't go away. We've got a lot more Rocket and Ray Guns for you right here.